fantastic to be here with you to talk about what I call beloved companies and doing a set of deliberate things to be the kind of company that customers want to be a part of and employees can't wait to be a part of. So I'd like to ask you to do something. Close your eyes. Come on. Oh, I snort when I laugh. I'll tell you why in a minute if you close your eyes. Okay, close your eyes. I want you to think about a company, about an experience, about people, human beings that helped you, that thought about your life, that took care of you, that got rid of the arm wrestle, that created an experience and a moment in your life when you needed them, that almost knew who you were. They thought about your kids or your family, and they left you with a memory that you wanted to repeat. You can open your eyes. And the reason is because they started with your life. They started with understanding and really caring about who you were, about what's important to you. And that's the difference for me between an everyday company and a beloved company or a cult company that starts with a life and moves everything they do in the direction of that organization. The reason I snort is because I started my career a million years ago, 1983 at Land's End, which was a very good company then. They've done some crazy things to it recently. But we were in the middle of a Wisconsin farmland, and there's a lot of pigs there. So there's the snort, where the snort comes from. But the thing about the beloved companies is that they think about the world differently. They start with the life and not with the silos. But this is our life. In many of our organizations, what we know is becoming this kind of cult company doesn't happen naturally because we live in a world of silos where people are working hard. And when we have conversations about customers, it looks like this. Does anybody relate? It's the project plan and red, yellow, and green dots, and we come into a meeting, and we turn PowerPoint decks, and we look at where the dots drop. But we don't think about the life. We don't stand through the customer life, and so our work is to move from project plan movement to customer life improvement. And the work is to lead the organization, to embed a way that they will and will not lead, because this is at its core about leadership, about deciding how we will grow and what we won't do to grow. What behaviors don't deliver the values that we are? What behaviors prevent our employees from doing things at work that they do with their mom, with their grandma? Now, I call this the stairway to desire. There's been a lot of work and a lot of language around the word loyalty. But accidentally, we've made loyalty be something we want to get from customers. We do great regression analysis and data, and we find out that a customer with one line of business is more loyal than a customer with 2 lines of business, right? Can you relate? And so we put all our eggs in the basket of upselling the one line of business customer. And so because of the work we do, we inadvertently deliver this to a customer, a random experience, because every silo, everyone is working hard, but we're working hard separately. Anybody ever call an airline more than once? Not Air Canada, right? Oh, see, there's the start. Okay, so you call an airline more than once. I'm constantly buying tickets for the wrong day. Ring, 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 ring. Somebody answers the phone. Hello, may I help you now? On the first call, sometimes I get a policy cop. We know what the policy cop is, right? Young person or old, whatever, it doesn't matter. Very nice man or woman, but they're going to tell you what you did wrong, why you did it wrong, and so I hang up. And then I dial again. That's service roulette, right? I dial again, and I try for another person, and the next time the person calls, who I call, starts with my life instead of with the rule, tries to understand what happened to me, and navigates somehow around the shenanigans to help me with a better answer. Now, is that a reliable experience? It's an it depends experience. It depended on the day I called, the person I reached, how she felt, and her ability to navigate around all of the bumps in the road. And that's why what we know in this world of becoming beloved, of being the kind of brand that customers care about, is that you need to deliver reliably at the moments they care about. Now, a lot of people think reliability is boring, but it is in knowing the life that the reliability becomes innovative, in that you can create an experience. I mean, who knew that the excitement of looking at a car on an app and the reliability of that could make you giggle and feel excited? It's just about making sure the car arrives when you called the car. And so that's why our job is not to earn or get loyalty, but to deliver and earn desire, an experience that's connected in an emotion, where we're taken care of as humans, where our life matters, and where we want to create an experience where customers talk about us and they want to have it again. And I don't know why I do this, and that's why I call desire the cha-chang emotion. It's about uniting all of us. Now, here's what we know, and it's one of my favorite things about this work, is that customers now, they are the ones with the microphone. They are going to tell other people more than our messages about the experience they had. And if we earn the right to their story and to that feeling that pulls them back again. And that's, I think, what's important. Now, think about what you read on social media. Customers talk about three things. Did you do what you said you were going to do? Did you improve my life in both B2B and B2C? Did I make my deadline? Did I get my mother to the airport? Did I get what I needed to put the barrette in my child's hair for her dance recital? And did you care enough to make that happen? And finally, how did you make me feel? How did I feel at the end of that experience? Now, in our role as marketers and leaders across the organization, what we know is that these skills to do the storytelling, to start our work with the customer's life, not the silo agenda, doesn't naturally come inside of our organization. I call this work becoming the human duct tape of the organization, and that is our opportunity moving forward. It's creating a new way of telling the story of the work of our business, of the life of what we do, so we earn the right to growth, so we earn the right to legions of families staying with us. And it's about, I call them competencies, because when you think about a competency, it's a behavior. And the work of these behaviors is to have them become the regular cadence of the business. And that's where, whether you're a CMO expanding to this work, or a chief customer officer, or uniting a group of people inside your business, it's to start to create this conversation that starts with, are we honoring and managing the customer as the asset of our business? In many of our organizations, we walk through the spreadsheets and we talk about sales or our corporate assets. But the conversation should really be a very simple metric that starts with, as a result of the experience we delivered this past month or quarter or year, did all of us, did we all earn the right to growth? And it's really nothing more than doing simple customer math, but a lot of companies around the world aren't doing this. We ring the bell of the incoming sales. So I'm a fan of visual storytelling, and as marketers, this is right up your alley to get this information going. So every key meeting, we want to give leaders this fearless, simple metric of our ability to earn this and grow this asset. Did we bring in more customers than we lost? So what is our volume and value of incoming customers? And I want you to use the whole number, because the reason for the whole number and not the retention rate is because I want you to think of the life of the human. We brought in 35,000 people into our business. They cared to step through our doors. But in this same period, we lost 25,000, and here is their value. Because if you don't do the math, you're looking at retention rates, and you're not thinking about the lives that left your company for a reason. And the other thing that's important about this is the why. We need to care about the why. This is about honoring the life. There are things that we've done inadvertently across the stages of the journey with the customer that caused them to leave because we didn't honor who they were. The other important thing about using the volume is that I'm Italian. Does anybody know the word agita? I want you to have a little agita, a little sick in your belly, that these people are walking away from our company. Now, we introduced this, we call it this chart, the Christmas tree chart. We introduced this at St. Jude's Children's Hospitals, and this has changed their business in almost every company we work with, because as you know, think about your data. Just getting everybody in the organization to agree on what is new is a powerful statement. And then get everybody to agree with what is gone or lost or lapsed, and why is important as well. And what happens when you can tell every part of the organization fearlessly as a result of the experience we delivered, here's how we did or did not earn the right to grow. We increased or we grew this customer base, which we all, as a united organization, must work together to earn. And that changes everything, because we've made this work very complicated. Surveys are a big part of the work. I'll talk about it later. But let's start with what customers actually did, voting with their feet on if we earned this. Now, when we introduced this to AAA many years ago, and we've done this with many other organizations, we did something like this because people, again, are very visual learners. We introduced 2 huge bowls of marbles to them. And the first bowl of marbles, we did a mathematical equation of the incoming customers' volume and value. And then the second bowl of marbles was their lost customers' volume and value. And at that time, again, this was many years ago, their lost customer bowl of marbles was equal to the new customer's bowl of marbles. And what you now see as a marketer, as an organization, is you are losing as many customers as you're bringing in. And your growth rate is not what you think it is. If you're only looking at acquisition as your success metric, we're not connecting the dots to what all of us must do as an organization to create that experience, that wanting to want to stay around. And you know what else you can say then, don't you? We lost our marbles. Sorry. So this first competency, it's an attitude shift. It's not a dashboard. This is about 1 or 2 or 3 behavioral things that you as leaders start the conversation of telling the tale of your customer's life. In this past quarter, did we earn the right to grow? It drives and embeds caring about why. Why did they leave? Why didn't they stay? Why didn't they buy more? And most importantly, this language. Everything that I teach in these competencies is, yes, about some operational actions. You'll see there's data configuration. But it's also about creating the cadence of how leaders communicate, and how leaders communicate in a consistent way. In the beloved companies, they are talking about this. They are angsting about this. And your role is to create that language, to unite the data, to create the conversation so people care about the why. The interesting thing about this work is that most of the time it doesn't cost anything, but it requires people to sit around the table and give up a little bit of their silo-based version of success for a one-company version. So establish your one-company metric. When we do this, we bring the CEO, the CMO, the CFO. They need to be part of creating this versus pitching. One of the things that we know that happens in a CCO role or a CMO role is you accidentally become the beggar, the beggar of the organization. Please come to this meeting. Please review this data. Please look at this information. Who can relate with this? And this defines our life. We need to include the people who are defining the work. So engage leaders then to fearlessly share this. Start every meeting. And then finally, evolve your language from getting that survey score to earning the right to growth. The second competency guides you in the conversation that you take the company through in terms of telling the story. Now, what we know is everybody and their brother is going out and doing journey mapping. It's a shiny object, but I'd like to ask you to stop. Simply identify the stages of your journey from your customer's life standpoint. By stage of the journey, what are they trying to accomplish? What's important to them? What are the emotions? You don't need to go out and map every journey step. Just start with getting leaders to start asking about the life by stage of the journey first. It's flipping the language. It's flipping the accountability, and that becomes your blueprint for how you ask questions. Now, when we did work with the Smithsonian, anybody not been to the Smithsonian? A few. I'd encourage you to go. It's a wonderful experience, but about 3 years ago, what was interesting was the Smithsonian, inside the room, for those of you who have been there, the room with the big dinosaur, the rotunda, it was nothing but silos running the business. So you'd walk face forward, there'd be about 400 people milling around the rotunda. In the front, there'd be the IMAX booth. To the left, the question and answer people. And to the right, people selling some kind of souvenir. And if you made the mistake of going to IMAX and asking them for instructions, they would send you to the question and answer people to get the answer because the silos ruled the experience you had at the Smithsonian. But what we did there, I know this is an eye chart, I'm going to walk you through something. What we did there is start with the life of the parent, the life of the teacher, and think about and watch these stages, because when you start with the stage, you imagine the life, and what you can operationalize becomes magical. The consider going experience. As a teacher planning a trip, what are we going to do to unite and give them apps and information to educate the teachers? The organize the trip experience. They have created a whole plethora of information that can be downloaded, all the way to arriving at campus. The leaving a building experience, the exiting campus experience. What has happened at the Smithsonian is now in a very deliberate way. There is an operational path to deliver a deliberate memory in each one of these steps, including when you're back home. What's your memory? How are you going to rethink about this and share it with others? Anybody have a lot of binders with Visio maps in them in their places? This is what we need to do, is start here. Start with the life and design to the life. Another thing that these stages provide you with is the ability to do a conscience check. By stage of the journey, get together your employees and your contractors and ask by stage of the journey, what will we always do to honor these lives? What will we never do to get in the way of these lives? And for our employees, what this does now is it provides you with a blueprint for consistency that's operational. A lot of times this customer stuff feels like kumbaya, but if you operationalize it to the stages of the journey, you unite the leaders also, because the one thing we know in the cult brands is there's a unity of conversation. There's a unity of message. And your stages, if you think about them from the life, can start to bring that for you, can start to create accountability to customers' lives. And so this is easier said than done. Again, it's the repetition of doing this. And I'm going to walk you through something in a minute called the customer room, which creates a vehicle to physically walk people through customers' lives. So here's your 3 actions. Just talk to customers and figure out the version of your customer-centric stages. A lot of companies, I'll say, what are your journey stages? They'll say, well, prospect, acquire, sell, resell. Those are not customer journey stages. That's the stuff we want to get from customers. Rename them and get your leadership team to commit to them. As that duct tape, facilitate through it. Build and live your code of conduct. And then finally, every CEO I've ever reported to, the monthly meetings, we went around the room and reported by silo. Change that. Move little by little to changing the silo report out to the customer life accountability report. Where are we going by stage of the journey to improve the life? What are we doing? The third competency is what comes naturally for you and is also where many customer efforts begin and also stall a little bit because we get caught in the nuts and the bolts of the data and the regression analysis. Anybody ever presented survey results and spent more time debating and refuting the results than what the customers had to say? Nobody here, right? It is our life as the people telling that story. And so what I want to walk you through is a way to not put all our eggs in the survey basket. Let's find other places. There are so many places where customers are telling us things. And also, let's find those places and organize them not in dashboards by question or silo, but let's amalgamate multiple sources of information, you guessed it, by stage of the journey. So by stage of the customer journey, you begin your storytelling and you continue it. In stage 3, onboarding, we know in social media our complaints spiked 54%. Our customer calls into the call center were also here. Our verbatims in our Net Promoter Score or whatever we did are validating that same thing. And our survey score validates that. See what I did there? And let me show you the screenshot and the customer calls and what they went through. And as leaders, we sent you out prior to this meeting to try to do this yourself. How did that go for you? We need to take the customer off the spreadsheet. Every meeting is a PowerPoint deck and just we're paging through. We need to create emotion, walk the life, make it real. And by doing this, you'll see we put the score at the end. Anybody chasing survey scores here? You don't have to admit it if you are. But it's become our definition of good. We need to tell the story about the life and end with the score. You earn the score as a result of what you did to the life. This is something that they started at Adobe. Lambert initiated this. I know he's just taken it with him to his new role as well. But what's interesting is, again, part of this work is about behavior modification, engaging our leaders in a united way to know the life so we can serve the life, to change the conversation we have about the life. And so at Adobe, their top 1,000 or so leaders every month or quarter have to go into an immersion lab where they listen to customer calls, but they also go into another lab and they download the newest product, or they have to get what the customer has gone through. We have healthcare clients where we make them go to the emergency room, sign up to be a patient, try to order their pharmacy materials. If you don't go through the rigmarole that your customer goes through, it's decks, pages, and red, yellow, and green dots. You need to know the life, and that's where your role becomes so powerful. These aren't expensive things, but they're things that you can embed to create the cadence of that conversation, to make the conversation part of the daily life conversation. So competency 3 is telling the story, but with multiple sources, and make it experiential. Get rid of the tables and put things up on a wall. Walk customers and employees through it. Make it about the life. And importantly, create one company focus. What normally happens, and we know, all of the survey work is well intended. I've lived it, I created it, I've presented it, and now we're pulling back as much as we can because what we do is we've created exhaustion. Anybody exhausted as a customer in receiving surveys? Ask where you need to but look and find the information where it's already there. Customers are volunteering in social media. They're behaviorally telling you what's working. So also, instead of everybody going into those beautifully created results in those dashboards and cherry-picking actions to give them a lift on a question that applies to their silo, unite. Present multiple forms of information by stage of the journey, and as a leadership team or regional teams, choose focus. Focus on the few versus cherry-picking the many, and reduce that survey score addiction. We so swiftly attach the score to people's behavior, and we know what we get. Please give me a 10, or I can't put braces on my kids' teeth. Here's 3 actions to build your customer listening plan. This is, again, you as the duct tape. We got to get people to give up a little of their own Survey Monkey ad hoc things or things going out to create a one-company version of honorable listening. And it's work, but it will show your customer you're caring about their life. Unite the sources and tell the story by stage. Again, there's nothing more powerful than telling the story by stage of the journey. And then finally, figure out your version of this be a customer immersion process. This 4th competency is the revenue erosion early warning system. Think about this. There are key performance indicators or metrics or performance things that you are doing in your organization that are causing customers frustration, angst, workarounds on a regular basis. This is about knowing before your customers tell you where your processes are out of whack. We have the opportunity to either improve the life or to get or interrupt the life. Here's a great thing that we do with leaders when we start this work, and I'd love you to think about this. You could do it on butcher paper. Think about your stages of your customer journey from the customer's life standpoint. Bring in some customers and ask them about their experience in each stage, or cut up quotes from your surveys into Chinese fortune cookie strips. Don't have people read whole pages, otherwise our eyes roll into the back of our head. Put each stage up on the walls around the room and organize different leaders by stage of the journey. Then simply put this little thing like that, you can draw it, under each stage and give them a big sticker. They have to check their ego and their silo at the door and rate from a one company standpoint, from the customer standpoint. Are we 100% reliable in helping my life? Is it often an arm wrestle, challenging, or does it depend on where I am and who I am? If your leaders can be honest and sincere, this gives you permission to do the work, because the work is about moving from the it depends and the arm wrestle to reliability, which is, we know, peace of mind. We know those companies that care don't cause customers to come in and be their own advocate. But we know also it's about stepping through it, crawling and then walking. This is one of the things that we've done that's galvanized leaders more than anything I've seen, because it forces us to get real about what we're delivering today from a one company standpoint. The other thing that happens is we create all of these wonderful projects, 200 projects or 300, focus on a few things that mean the most to customers, and iterate. My favorite saying in this work is clunky is good. Start small, get going, and iterate. Iterate, don't churn through 30,000 pounds of butter because you're never going to get there. And don't tell your customers you're working on this big thing. Who's ever, right? We report this big giant thing to customers and then it doesn't happen. I love this story about what Curtis Knopf did. They first started this at Alaska Airlines, and then he's moved on to Primera, but they don't make any innovation teams larger than can be fed by 2 pizzas. So create those small teams where you have the ability to be agile and let them be fearless. So competency 4 is about creating a way, as you go through the stages of your journey, customer experience performance metrics should matter to your leaders as much as sales growth, renewals, EBITDA, whatever it is, because where you're failing customers from a reliability standpoint has everything to do with how they feel. And it drives value erosion, and it has everything to do with your future growth. And then connect the dots to this reliability and this asset growth. And it does connect in the storytelling. As a result of the experience we delivered, did we earn the right to grow? By stage of the journey, we're going to walk through what's happening to the customer. Here's the complaints and the trending of social media. We've sent you out to try something yourself. Here's the screenshots. And by the way, we knew this was going to happen because we're 50% down on our cycle time than where we should be based on what customer needs are. And the other thing when you're doing these metrics, it's important to ask customers what's important to them. I had a multi-billion-dollar software company patting themselves on the back for how well they were doing on their KPIs on their website traffic. They said, our customers are online 5.8 minutes. They're downloading 20 or 30 articles. Well, when we finally talked to customers, the reason they were online so long was because it was so hard to find what the customer needed because of the way the website was organized. And they downloaded 20 articles trying to find the one nugget that they needed. So it's important that we get to the KPIs that are important to customers. So your actions are, take these metrics and make them be as much of a priority as sales. Create a competency for bringing teams of people together and redesigning the life, starting with the customer's life. And then finally, reward cross-company teams, because when those complaints start going down, you can't game the complaints. Customers voting with their feet will stop complaining, and you know that something has stick. This fifth competency is what I call the prove it to me competency. It's those behaviors across the leadership team that say, yes, we are doing this for real this time. One of my favorite things, anybody in your company have rules that just don't make sense to customers? Or rules that force the front line to do workarounds over and over again? We have inadvertently, with our front line, forced heroics. We get it done for the customer, but we make them navigate around a lot of things. This is a kill a stupid rule program that a lot of people are doing now, and if you are able to initiate this with your employees, they will throw a parade in your honor, because it says, identify things that are getting in your way of supporting customers' lives. And this, in fact, was started at EnerSource, which is in Canada. Dan Pasternak, the CCO there, a young man had a work order that said, put a power pole in front of Mrs. Jones' front yard. And he comes back and he says, no, I'm not going to put a power pole in front of Mrs. Jones' front yard. But we need to give permission to people to not do the crazy things that we've inadvertently put on their scorecards. Another thing I mentioned, and this is really how you knit it together, build yourself a customer room. It can be butcher paper, but here is where you tell the story of the life. Walk your people quarterly, monthly through it. Start with your leadership teams. You can expand this globally. I don't like having chairs in the room because I want people to physically walk it. As a result of the experience we delivered, did we earn the right to grow? And by stage of the journey, I'm going to walk you through the trending of our complaints, the pictures of our customers' lives, the pound of paper we sent them, what they're going through in the stores. We're sending people out on missions now to do videos, and where we are operationally. And what this will do is unite your leadership team. Instead of each independently picking something that sings to their silo, to say, these are the 5 things that are really emerging to customers. What are we going to do to improve those lives? So this competency is the prove it to me competency. It's uniting all of us to improve customers' lives. Here's those 3 actions for you. Just start small with your customer room. Clunky is good, clunky is good, clunky is good. Butcher paper works fine. Create a kill a stupid rule movement. You can call it anything you want. Have your employees involved. They will applaud you for it. And then finally, the Achilles heel of this work is we're layering it onto the real work. We have to create capacity. This is the real work. When you look at the customer room, you can also inventory every project so you can make decisions about where to focus and what falls off the plate, because you're now going to work on something in a holistic way. So to summarize, these competencies unite for you to tell the story of your customers' lives as a result of the experience we delivered. Did we earn the right to growth? Now let's travel the life as our customer thinks about it and understand where they were in pain, where they needed us, where operationally we performed or we didn't, and now where are we going to focus to improve the life, to improve the experience, and to improve our ability to create that indelible pull that wants our customers to come back and our employees to stay. So use these 5 competencies to tell the story of your customers' lives, to earn the right to customer-driven growth. Thanks so much.